Hello and welcome back to Designing Tokenomics. In this lesson, we're going to be touching on what goes into the complete tokenomics course syllabus, or in short, what do you need to know to design tokenomics well? Now, tokenomics or token economies are the core innovation of Web3, and they are the bedrock of adding money to the internet. That's what makes it so cool. Now, what do you need to know to do this well so that it doesn't become a double-edged sword that can hurt your project as much as it can benefit your project? So these are the topics that you need to know to master, or at least to be aware of, to know what you don't know before diving into designing token economies. I'll run through them briefly and then we'll dive into each one a little bit more in depth. So the core tokenomics course syllabus touches on things like political science, game design, game theory, economics, finance, financial history, cryptography, of course, everything that goes into smart contracts and consensus mechanisms around blockchain protocols. So here's the comprehensive curriculum for the tokenomics course, and you'll see why there's so many different topics that you need to know about. So why and when to use a token, right? Tokens are the superpower of Web3, but they are a double-edged sword. So you have to understand when they make sense. And here you have to really understand the core underpinnings of what makes blockchain work, consensus mechanisms as a whole, and very, very, very important, game design, game theory, and behavioral psychology around incentive mechanisms. Next is tokenomics of understanding supply and demand of tokenomics. And this touches more on economics and finance. Why do people buy a token? Why do people sell a token? What are the benefits and the value that it gives the holders? Right. That touches into our next topic, which is demand and business analysis fundamentals. Here, which is very similar to how you'll think about public market equities, a lot of similarities between that and tokens exist. And so what drives demand for a token? You have to learn how to analyze the utility of a token, what brings it value, who cares about it, especially in terms of finance, but also when it comes to behavioral psychology, it might not be financial at all. It might be status related, or it might be
art related. There might be a myriad different number of reasons why people find utility in a token. Supply also has a lot to do with finance and economics, finding the right equilibrium between supply and demand. That relates to setting up your own token liquidity. When it comes to liquidity, there are, again, a lot of similarities between setting up liquidity for a token and running an IPO process when a company goes public. You have to find the right amount of liquidity where buyers and sellers can match, and neither will move the market that much. Regulation. This goes into political science and governance and modern politics. Regulation is ever more present an issue in Web3, and structuring the token so that A, you don't break the laws, and B, you're complying with the laws is great. You have to be aware of what you can and what you can't do, and regulation ties into governance. So many tokens serve for protocol governance as well as protocol utility. And this gives them a dual purpose that needs to be considered. Otherwise, they will contradict and come at the expense of one another. Now, there are many forms of token governance. Some have been more successful. Most have been less successful. And that comes from the Web3 industry taking its baby steps when it comes to understanding governance. Now, there's a lot of research in the field of political science on governance and politics that Web3 can learn from. And when it comes to governance approaches, those are the things that you'll want to look up. Whether you're doing a one token, one vote system, or going more towards a democracy of one entity, one vote, or a dual house system, how you want to structure your governance, there's a lot to learn from existing writings in political science. Now, governance has to do with human incentives, which is another topic that you need to know about, and that is the agency problem. And this comes to governance in corporations and in financial structures, where there's, again, a lot that the Web3 world can learn from the classic business world. The agency problem is a well-known problem when it comes to coordination mechanisms, and figuring out how to build tokenomics to align those incentives is a key part of designing your right tokenomics. So that's why the full syllabus that a tokenomics expert needs to know is very interdisciplinary. You need to know things from political science, game design, game theory, economics, finance, cryptography, and financial history, because a lot of what we're doing here has been done already. So those are all of the different topics that we're going to be touching on. And as always, if you want to find out more, you can check out the more resources in the lesson resources or at designingtokenomics.com.